So I'm interviewing my mom. This is Margaret Phillips, and she can introduce herself.
I'm Margaret, as Anna said, and I'm 71. I was born in Indiana in 1946 and grew up there and graduated from high school in my hometown. And then I went to college. Um, my idea was that I would become a journalist, but that didn't seem so financially practical, so I decided to do a teaching license, which I did, and I've taught for many years. I taught um, in public high schools in the United States, in Indiana, um, and then I also taught in Japan. Before that, actually, a few years in Germany, and then at the age of how old was I? Well, almost 40. After I had met Jill and known Jill for a while,
Jill is my other mother and her partner.
we moved back from Japan to Cape Cod, or to Boston actually, and then Kai was born, and then the following year
My brother.
we moved to Cape Cod where we live now, and
Right.
Anna was adopted in 1995.
Okay, so that's her background of her life, and now we're going to get into her family and her childhood. So, can you tell me a little bit about how your mom viewed your sexuality as a lesbian and how, when you found out you were a lesbian, and how you dealt with that as a child? I know you said you read a lot and religion had a big effect on your life.
Yeah, I'm not exactly, I didn't really realize that I was a lesbian until I got to college. And so the church had quite an influence on me because it was a fundamentalist church, and we were taught that each person is a sin, contains sin, born with sin, and so I think that really had a large influence on me when I realized that I was a lesbian, because I really had a very poor self-image because of it, and otherwise I was leading like a normal life. I mean, I was just a kid that played the French horn, and I dated boys. I didn't really enjoy it very much, but I did date a boy who was in the band, and I was in the band, and so we had fun. And
I remember you explained you had a relationship with one boy, and then you broke up, and he was like so devastated, and you were like, I thought we were friends. I didn't even know this was serious. And I think that maybe like he had those romantic feelings, and you just thought of it as more of a friendship, and you didn't know it at that stage. Or do you think you just were too young to be in a relationship at that time anyway?
I think the former. I think that I sort of saw us as friends, and I especially did not enjoy making out, which I did.
Yeah.
I did enjoy having, his ring, and having the status of that.
Yeah.
But I just got tired of it one day, and it always surprises me.
Did guys gross you out, or did you just not feel attracted to them? Did you feel closer to your friends who were women, or what do you think made you come to the realization of your sexuality?
Well, I think it was intrinsic, and that means that yes, I was attracted to my girlfriends, but I thought that everyone was.
Yeah.
That's really hard to explain, and I wasn't attracted to men, but I didn't think anyone was. You just marry them in order to be an adult and have a family and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there was no other way, right?
Right.
So when I broke up with him, I had been thinking about it for a while, but of course not discussing it with him. And we went into one of the practice rooms in the band room, and I said, "Well, Tom, I don't want to go steady anymore." And I took the ring off my finger and I handed it to him. And he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
He was really
Just shocked. He was like,
shocked.
what's happening? Right.
Why? What is going on here? And I thought, okay, I guess I really did this wrong, but I don't think backing up and trying another way is going to be any good. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to let it be a catastrophe.
And just that's that.
And that's
now
that.
I know.
Right. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I did it. And I
So
had,
it wasn't the best, but it was definitely a learning process.
yes, absolutely. If you're going to do something like that, a little finesse would be
A little finesse.
would
Yeah.
be in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you, I know as an adult now you aren't religious at all, and you now, you tried to join the Universalist
Universalist.
it's the longest name
Unitarian
ever.
Universalist.
Yeah, Unitarian Universalist
Right.
Church or something. And we did that for a bit, and it was very welcoming and stuff. But to be honest, we didn't want to wake up early. But it was a nice community, but it didn't last.
It was a wonderful community, and I think that's Anna's motivation for wanting to quit. I had to,
Yeah, that's true. It was my motivation.
my difficulty was that it was way too Christian. I was expecting
There
it
you
to
go.
be Buddhist or some less. I don't know. I couldn't stand the hymns and stuff. It reminded me too much of my childhood, and it made me uncomfortable. And it was hard to not keep going because it was such a good community. But I just couldn't do it anymore.
I respect that. Well, I was happy because I didn't want to wake up early. I was only going for the food, so. And then they kind of pushed back on the good food, so I was like, forget it. Okay. So the next question I wanted to ask was, how was dating for you in your adult life, and how was it to find other lesbians to date?
Okay, so you mean dating lesbians? Or because and when I was,
Yeah, but I get that was my first question, but now that there's an option, let's do both, I guess, a little.
well, I dated men. Um, in an, I mean, I'm just trying to remember. Um, there were some men that I dated,
Uh-huh.
and then I had an unfortunate experience of a guy. We went for a drive. I liked him,
Mhm.
and we went for a drive, and we went to. It was daytime. We went to a park, near woods and stuff, and he just decided to pounce on me, and I was so shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of had the feeling about him that I did about Tom. You're a nice guy. We're friends. What are you doing?
What's happening?
Yeah, right. And he was very insistent. And I finally, I feel like I did a good job, but it was mostly because I was so shocked.
Yeah.
You can't do that,
Right.
And then my sophomore year in college, I, a woman who lived on my floor seduced me.
Okay.
And she just, she just came over. We were in the dorm room, and she came over and she sat down next to me and she kissed me. And
Wow.
I had thought she was really attractive, but I
Okay.
wasn't going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And my response, even in the middle of the kiss, was, "Wait a minute, this is so wonderful." And I was really surprised that it was wonderful because of how I had felt about
The previous
making out with guys.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what a great idea. And I really fell very hard for her. I mean, it was and so she and I were together as roommates, but lesbian roommates for 3 years. And when she went to graduate school, she met a guy, and it was over with me. And that was one of the toughest things that I had to go through because.
Because it was weird that she left you for a man.
Right.
Because she was the one who started this all, and it
Right.
seems like, I don't know how it would be, but as a lesbian, it would feel worse if they didn't left you for someone who's a guy, or maybe it would feel better. I don't know. How is that for you? Or is it the same? Does it not matter who? Because they're leaving either way, so I guess why does
The
it matter?
leaving is the hard part, but yeah, and I hadn't had it, and she was my very first experience. So I didn't, at that point I didn't know that, whether it would be harder for a man or for a woman, and that's
Right.
the only time it ever happened to me.
Okay.
So I mean, that a woman broke up with me and left me for a man. It was very, very hard, but I was, I thought that lesbians were rare. I mean, really rare.
Yeah.
And so maybe I would never have another chance in the whole rest of my life.
to find anyone.
to find
Right.
anyone. So that would be the breakup was in 1969. So let's put this date in there. It's a long time ago. Gay people were not people that, I mean, I hadn't gone to a bar, I hadn't done any of that, I hadn't found anyone else besides Carol, that's the name of the woman.
Who was lesbian. And so when you broke up, you thought, where am I going to find one? And I
Exactly.
remember you said you dated someone, a few people after, and every time it was like, I need to hold on to this person
Right,
because
that's exactly
I'm never
right.
going to find someone else again. This is the only lesbian. They're so hard to find. Like, how am I going to meet new people? And so, like, each relationship has so much pressure and, like, expectation. And because you can't get married at that time, I know you said that it gave you, like, more pressure and insecurity about your status, how long you're going to be together. And I know you said you had relationships, a couple that have lasted 6 years.
Right.
And like that's intense. Most people, like some people, might get married at that time.
If I
You're together
had been
6
able to,
years.
I would have.
That's what I'm saying. And you've done this a few times, and now you've had someone you really love. And I think it just shows you how different lesbian relationships are because you might have been married like so many times, and it's just crazy to me that you're with Jill, and it just worked out how it did. And I'm happy it did. It's just crazy.
Well, we
You
both
could have.
got better
It's
at
6 years.
picking.
It just seems so weird to me.
Yeah, I had 2 6-year relationships. And
6 years?
yeah, and Carol was only 5.
Only 5. Some people are like, where's the ring? But okay. My next question is because it's already at 12 minutes. We should probably hurry up. So I'll just get to the most important story, I suppose, where when my brother Kai, who was Jill's biological son, because she was in vitro fertilized, so Margaret adopted me and Kai. But in middle school, Kai said to Margaret, like, you aren't my mom, you can't tell me what to do, you don't know me. And then Margaret, can you tell your response kind of quickly?
Right. He was going through some normal stuff as just his own age, and then of course he had the pressure of having lesbian parents.
Yep.
And everybody knew there was no closetness about that. And so when he said that to me, I was devastated. And I think my fundamentalist, I'm not a good person thing, I'm a lesbian and that makes me bad thing, really kicked in a way that was, and it was very stressful. So to make a long story short, got a therapist. And it so happened that he was the right one.
Yeah.
And so I think the event that Anna wants me to tell is that I was sitting with this guy, David was his name, and I said to him essentially, Kai hates me, I'm fat, I'm a dyke, and he's right. I'm not his mother. What shall I do? And Dave said, you should say, I'm a fat dyke, and I'm your mother, so adjust.
Yeah.
And that was like a curtain raising. It was like, oh my God, what a concept. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
He said, the kid, that's who you are. You're his parent. So just, call him up on it.
Mhm.
So I did. And while, life continued in a normal way, it really made a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think it was like for you that like this is who I am. Deal with it. Not just for him, but for you too.
Well,
like
yeah.
this is who I am. Accept it. And I think it was also like insecurity about like I don't know if I'm putting this on you, but like is it my family? Because it was like partly Jill, and you felt like you could be pushed out legally as well because you weren't married yet technically until later on. And so I know Jill didn't want to have you adopt him for a bit because she wanted custody in case something went wrong. And then Margaret was like, well, this isn't fair. We need to do it this way. So I know there's other like emotional things behind your
Right,
decision.
it's really true. I mean, a friend of mine whom I loved then and love and still do once said to me before Kai was born, she said, well, what's he going to call you, Dad?
Yeah.
And I was just devastated. I didn't want to be called Dad. But we didn't have any models. So how was it going to work out? And that insecurity really continued until David made me realize that no matter how odd I was as a parent, I really was the parent.
Yeah, you are
And
the
that
parent.
did it. That made such a difference. And when it came to you, I was fine.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for Margaret, but it was nice talking with you. Thank you for letting me interview you.
No problem.
And that's about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.